So good morning, good day, whenever you're doing this practice. Welcome to the class. I have prepared a few things today. The almost standard blanket for a bit of comfort and sitting support. I've got a block there, maybe similar reasons, but also today, and that's why I'm pointing at it, I've prepared a strap. So the strap will be good to have, but not 100% essential. If you don't have one, a belt might be long enough, a shawl, a larger towel. However, there might be a practice that I offer where an actual strap will be very, very useful, but I will give you an alternative for that posture anyway. So strap, if you have one, maybe one that buckles up, but I know that's a big ask. So if you don't, I will provide options for it. I would love to start ourselves today in a seated position, and hence I will start using one of the props that is a block, and I will choose to sit towards my heels, but this seems to be a more comfortable position for me. So please choose easy poses, legs out long, sitting like myself, propping yourself up with the various props that you might have. Perhaps you've got a bolster as well to sit upon. So making yourself reasonably comfortable. I will walk up towards the screen now and show you a mudra that we will hold for a little while and integrate into a breathing practice. So on each hand, I will fold my index finger towards the base of the thumb and then place the thumb itself on the inside of the middle finger. So I'll repeat it once again. I'm taking my index finger towards the base of the thumb, and then the thumb itself on the inside of the middle finger. Oftentimes we're touching the tips. Here we're touching the inside. That's for energy points. So looks interesting. Last two fingers are extended. And I would love you to stay seated very comfortably. Perhaps holding the mudra in your lap. The palms for this mudra are lightly facing upwards. You might allow your shoulder blades to come a little bit closer and let them slide down your spine. You might choose to lower your gaze or close the eyes. Perhaps you tap right down into the sensation of breathing. And perhaps beginning to tune in with the sensations, feelings that this hand gesture or mudra might provide for you. This is Brahmara mudra. Brahmara, same as the breathing practice Brahmari, is related to the bee honey. This mudra, on top of the qualities of the breathing practice, which we might add, can teach you how to hold healthy boundaries. You might reflect upon the mudra in your hands, as well as the topic of boundaries. A boundary might seem easy to master and just simply blocking out things. Sometimes we don't have any boundaries and feel overwhelmed by what comes at us. But when our boundaries are too strong, we're not allowing anything in. A healthy boundary might find the balance, whatever you might need healthy boundaries for. As this mudra might assist you to define these boundaries, perhaps through these words, you found an intention for the practice today. If you do, you might repeat this intention silently 3 times to yourself. From where you might like to join in for a few rounds of Brahmari pranayama, the bee breath, humming bee breath. To do this breathing technique, you breathe in through the nostrils and out as well. But on the out breath, we create a humming sound. We will let that sound continue until we need our next breath in. Please do not gasp for air. So as usual, there's no strain or stress in this breathing. I will remind you when it's almost complete. Then I'd ask you to pause for a little while and reflect upon the practice. Let's begin by breathing in together, starting the first humming. Please let the humming just simply flow and continue. Inhaling now. Only 2 more. Might gently release the mudra, moving a bit through the fingers, the hands and wrists. Perhaps you noticed where the vibrations went, and that might be something to keep in mind, as they often reach towards areas that need a bit of healing. I will remove my block now, but please keep your seated support if you like to sit a little bit higher. I will now maximize the fold in my blanket and then choose to sit upon that instead. Bringing legs forward if that suits you, and bending knees while touching the soles of the feet together. As this might not be comfortable for everyone, but if you have a bolster, you could place that underneath the knees to assist the shape, or you might have cushions here or blocks if this feels rather challenging. Don't feel the feet have to be a certain way. Place them where they're just right at this point in time. You might bring them close, you might have them a bit further away. You could choose to hold onto your lower legs, your ankles, or embrace your toes if they're within reach. I will choose my ankles for now, and I'd ask you to do the similar thing, just holding on and finding length in the spine. Perhaps noticing the effect of the knees rolling outwards. Directing your breath down towards the abdomen so the breath is a bit deeper. And you might then sway a little, keeping your spine long and leaning slightly forward. So keeping the spine long in this round, keeping the length, the hold on feet or ankles. And if you feel it's okay to pause the swaying, still hold your spine long, your knees open. You might lower your gaze or even close your eyes and just feel, experience. If you now notice the swaying was actually what was useful for you, go back into it, otherwise hold. All very mindful, aware of the sensations, where you feel limitations, where you feel freedom in the movement. And once you've moved just that little bit more or held for a tad bit, draw yourself back up towards a seat and move your feet further away from you, placing the hands perhaps down into the space created. And you might choose to do the opposite, not being still, but swaying too as you move forward and slide your hands underneath your legs, but then approaching the opposite, a rounded spine, and even perhaps choosing to let go of the head. Let shoulders soften and lean towards a tortoise pose. The tortoise with its rounded back, providing a shell, a protective shield behind you. As you hold the shape, or again, you might lightly sway, perhaps not as big as before, but if the sensations assist you here, you might as well use them. Keeping the spine rounded, the head and neck at ease. Take a few deeper breaths. Then beginning to slide the hands back in towards the center, placing your right hand fingertips loosely behind, and then take the hand from the center over towards the opposite knee, and on the out breath entering a subtle twist. Same here, leave your shoulders at ease as you look over towards the side. Now take the hand from the knee and bring that hand behind your back. Opposite hand again reaches to the knee, other side of course. And as you breathe out, re-entering your twist. Leaving shoulders easy as you breathe. Releasing the hand again from the knee and turning the torso into the center, helping your knees now to rise and extending both legs out long. As you sit up here, you might choose to flex your feet, take a deep breath in, and then let yourself soften forward. Even the feet could relax. And notice the resistance or stretch you might feel in the backs of the legs. Acknowledging that that is there. And then breathing in to wave your spine long and out to rise back to a seat. Bending the right knee and placing your ankle up onto the other leg. If it's possible, slide the ankle above the knee towards your thigh. And please do flex that ankle joint so we're engaging not only around the ankle, but also around the knee. Your hands could rest by your sides. You might even lean a little bit back into the hands. And you could then start to bend your extended leg. You might push yourself with your hands or fists forward, reaching with your heart towards the lower leg. Please hold that ankle flexion to protect the joints. But you can lift your heart as much forward as it suits you, finding a seated figure four to prepare for further hip opening, perhaps a stretch into the glutes. You might notice it elsewhere in your leg. As you lean back, sliding both legs back out long. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, bending your left knee. The same here, you might place your ankle onto the leg. If it is available, help it upwards, bring it to the thigh above your knee. Starting with the flexion in the ankle joint for knee and ankle itself. You could lean into hands or fists, and then starting to bend the straight leg. Don't have any expectations of that being similar or the same sensation. Just exploring, maintaining that ankle flexion and lifting your heart up towards your lower leg. You could choose to close the eyes here and indulge in this moment and the sensations that you might feel, perhaps following your breath. And then releasing that by once more sliding both legs out long. Lift yourself back up onto the fingertips, flexing the feet, Dandasana, staff pose. And then swing the feet over to one side. I will recycle my blanket and place that underneath the knees now as we come onto the hands and the knees. And from hands and knees, then sitting the buttocks back towards the heels. You might choose to keep your arms extended forward, or you could even choose to rest them by the sides for a full child's pose. If your forehead happens to touch the floor, that's wonderful. If it isn't, you might grab a block and rest the forehead onto the block instead. Let yourself drop in this child's pose, leaving shoulders soft no matter where your arms are positioned. Feeling into the roundedness of the back. And you might, for a few breaths, incorporate humming into the shape. And taking a note where the vibrations are going when you're humming here. No mudra needed, just the sound, the vibration of the humming. Mm. 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 As you come to your last round of humming the breath, then if your hands are by your sides, bring the hands down. Help yourself to lift the head. You might place that prop out of the way and begin to walk the forearms forward. I will, for this now, remove the blanket and come to lie down on the tummy. Placing, if that feels right, the forearms down, the elbows underneath the shoulders. If you do need any support here, you could roll up the blanket and place it underneath your lower ribs. As the fingers are spread out, encouraging the tops of the feet actively into the floor so the knees might rise. The pubic bone gently touches down towards the mat. The shoulders are feeling quite easy and your heart is lifting forward. Eyes might open. As you next exhale, turning your head towards the right. And then eyes open, rolling your eye gaze into the corner of the eye and holding it there for a little while, keeping your body engaged as it is right now. As you hold your eye gaze in the corner, you might feel after a while a need to sigh or yawn. If this need arises for you whenever that might occur, you can rest your body down into a crocodile position. Otherwise, stay in the hold with me for a little bit longer. Then slowly turning the head forward anyway. If you use the support, please remove. Spread your elbows out, stack your hands, and rest the forehead onto stacked hands. Soften your shoulders. You leave the legs out long, but relaxing pelvic area as well. And taking deep, full breaths that expand down into the mat and with that out to the sides and perhaps also into your back. You might then choose to join me as you push the hands into the floor, drawing your elbows back in. I will bring my blanket back in as a support for the swings, assisting my lower back. Hands spread back out, elbows might align directly underneath the shoulders. Tops of the feet press back into the floor. Pubic bone comes down towards the mat. The heart lifts forward, shoulders are feeling easy. Eyes are open and on the elbows turning the head to the left. Now rolling your eye gaze to the very left corner of the eyes. Please do not strain the eyes here. Hold them there steady. You might blink, but keeping the eyes in the corner. As you hold, your heart keeps lifting forward. The tension created in the body remains. The same here. If you feel an urge to sigh or to yawn, please return back to the crocodile. Otherwise, perhaps staying here with me for a little bit longer. Turning the head to the center, removing any support, and letting the elbows melt back out as you rest the forehead back down onto your hands. Letting go of the tension that was in the body And perhaps reflecting a little bit on the mind, the state you're in. Do you feel relaxed, stressed? How did you enter the practice and what does it feel like now? Let's slide the hands back underneath the shoulders. Take a breath in to rise up onto hands and knees. Now I will grab my blanket again straight away, cushioning the knees one more time. This time I will take my knees out as wide as the mat, touch the big toes together, still sit back towards the heels, and then more actively this time extending both arms forward if that is possible for you. The forearms might remain off the floor, the hands are wide, and we're grounding down using Hasta Bandha, creating a bit of a suction here into the palm of the hand by using the bases and the pads of the fingers. Let the shoulders rotate slightly outwardly so the armpits are beginning to see each other. The head might rest, but it could as well float as you focus a little bit more on the length created here rather than roundedness. Deeper breath in and out of your nostrils. Adho Mukha Virasana, the downward facing hero shape. On the next inhalation, lifting back up, you might round your way there, bringing the knees back underneath the hips. And if it feels right for you, could you stay here? Or you could tuck the toes under, lift your knees up and find a downward facing dog instead. You might choose to pedal this down dog out for a little bit. Then take a breath in and bring the knees back down directly underneath the hips. Bringing the hands back to the knees and rolling up to stand on those. Roll the shoulders back and shrug the hands into the lower back. As the hands come to rest, the fingertips are pointing downwards. Lightly bring heaviness to the tailbone and squeeze the bottom. And then start to lift your heart space. The gaze could remain forward, feel into the neck. How's that feeling? If the neck is okay, could you bring your chin forward and then guiding the chin up, perhaps all the way back. Try not to use an in-between point. Either it's the chin to the ceiling, the neck reasonably relaxed, or guiding it further back. So it's all the way rather than in between. Keep that subtle squeeze in the buttocks, the lifting of the heart. Some of you might reach with your fingers towards the heels. Ustrasana, camel shape. Breathing in. On the exhale, leave the head as you decided it to be. Start to bend the hips. The head comes with you as you sit your buttocks back down towards the heels. And for one more time, coming into child's pose. This time you might make fists with your hands, stack the fists and rest the forehead upon. So we're leveling out head and heart. You might have little movements here to find ease in other parts of the body again. Then bringing your hands down onto the mat. Leaning a little forward to tuck the toes under behind you. And then lifting the knees off the floor, landing the heels to the ground and coming to a standing forward bend. You might take time so the outer edges of the feet are aligning with each other. You might keep your knees soft, the head heavy. I suggest if your hands are on a support, be that the floor or a block, lift your shoulders up into the shoulder sockets and allow a bit of length coming through the neck. The weight sitting in the direction of the toes while your heels stay on the floor, but the tailbone might rise a bit more. Allow the neck to be easy and perhaps lengthening your out breath now. The in-breath less important, it occurs quite naturally, but your out-breath, let that lengthen a bit if it suits, and perhaps gaining a bit more depth in the forward fold. Knees, of course, can be bent here. Next out-breath, begin to uncurl the spine, rising towards a standing position. Give the shoulders a lift and then a shrug back and down. I will now grab my strap. Please feel free to do the same. I've also quietly removed the blanket from the mat. So for now, we will use whatever variation of a strap you have, holding on to either end. Stepping on with the ball of the right foot. If your balance is very challenged currently, you may use a piece of furniture or the wall. Leaning the weight slightly towards the left foot and a breath in to pull the right knee up. I like my hands wrapped around the strap so I'm not clinging to the strap, have more ease in the hold. And perhaps there's one person having trouble with the balance today, so please do not look at your screen. As you lift your knee upwards, trying to keep your elbows along your sides so shoulders feel easy. Let the hip drop rather than lifting it, keep it aligned. I will trick myself for a moment, so sorry. Extending the leg out long if that feels right. If you're dancing just like me, use a little cheating trick as well. As you might hold here, you're in a perfect position, but you could choose to let go with your left hand, bring that into the side, and take a breath to open the leg out sideways. Your leg could look more beautiful. It could look a little bit higher, a bit lower. And if you feel your balance is good today, you might even look to the other side. Bringing head to center, guiding leg to center. Bend the knee, land your foot, let your arms release. Keep the strap loosely and one of your hands will need it again. Standing upright. Take a couple of breaths here just to feel. The hardest part is to let go of anything that you might have struggled with or have been holding on to. So landing the left ball of the foot into the strap while holding both ends. Starting to shift weight towards the right. And a breath in to bend the left knee. Maybe wrapping your hands around the strap, keeping elbows close, and adjusting the hip if need be, finding back into balance. You might from there extend your leg out and hold here. As you hold onto the strap, you can choose to stay here or bring the strap into the left hand and the right hand to the waist. Same option. You could guide the leg out towards the side. It doesn't matter what this looks like for you. Higher, lower, straighter, more bent. But if you find some sense of balance, you could challenge yourself and look over to the opposite side. As you bring the leg back forward, Bend it and step the foot to the ground. Please release the strap right next to your mat for a little bit later. As you come to stand tall, reflect again. Eyes might be steady, or you could choose to close the eyes. Then stepping your feet out wide, facing the long side edge of the mat. Turning right toes to the short edge. Left heel to the other, ever so slightly though. As you reach your arms out, raise the right one and feel the length in the side. Then breathe out and tilt as you find Trikonasana or the triangle. You might choose to look back down to the hand that you just lifted and press into the ball of the right foot, aligning your knee by activating the quad muscles. The hand might be high, and if you like, could you turn your gaze and look to the upper hand while you breathe in, stretching to the fingers. And as you breathe out, folding in the fingers, the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, and you might have your palms touching in the end. On the next breath in, open that back up, extending, and maybe the gaze travels up back to the fingertips. On the out breath, start with fingers, wrists, elbows, shoulder, and roll back in as the spine turns, the palms might touch. Let's do that again. A breath in to open. And a breath out to roll it in, each joint at a time. Now, last time to open the arms as you breathe in. Holding here your chosen gazing point up or down. Taking a bend into your front knee and lifting yourself up to stand. Release your arms and turn your foot. As you find a slightly wider stance, breathe in again, softening the knees and let the hands slide down your legs as you breathe out to come to a standing wide-legged forward bend. You might place the hands down somewhere in between the feet. You might even align your fingertips with your toes. And if your hands happen to touch the floor, you might encourage your elbows to bend right back between your legs, letting go again of the head as you look to the space between the legs. Same as in the other standing forward bend, the weight shifts forward in the direction of the toes while the feet stay completely grounded. You can bend your knees here as much as you need to breathe out and deepen this forward fold. Staying here for 2 more breaths. Then bending the knees a tad bit more and beginning to uncurl the spine on an out breath. Give the shoulders a lift as you stand and breathe in. Shrug them down and the hands sliding back to outside of your legs. Now turn your left heel in and turn the left toes to the short side edge of the mat. The right heel slightly out to the other short side. Both legs are long. As your arms reach out, maybe the left arm lifts a bit more, feeling the length in your side. And on the out breath, tilting your triangle. Both arms might be long here. You could choose to look up or down and engaging into the ball of the left foot. The quad muscle there, so the knee aligns back with the toes. As you find your variation of the triangle, your gaze might travel up. And on the out breath, curling in your fingers, the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, and as you turn towards the leg, the palms of the hands are touching, your spine is long. Breathing in as the right arm comes through the chest, extends back upwards. Fingers roll in, wrist, elbow, shoulder, and the palms might touch again. On the in-breath, curl it back up. Got one more round here. Take your time, it's your breath. It's your slow movement through the arm joints. And again, we're opening back up into the triangular shape. A breath in here. Bending the knee. A breath out to rise. A release of the arms and a turning of the feet. The toes are pointing back towards the short edge of the mat. You might interlace the hands now behind your back and lengthen the arms down. You could choose to repeat the same shape as before, squeezing the shoulder blades, maybe lifting the gaze as you breathe in. This time bend your knees a lot and start to fold forward directly from the hips. Your arms in the process can stay restful or might lift away from the back. Postural-wise, it's the same stance, outer edges of the feet parallel, leaning forward into the feet while keeping them grounded. The gaze between the legs, the arms resting away from the back. Long, slow out breath here. Then releasing your hands to the mat, walk them back to the short front edge of the mat and bringing your left knee down onto the floor. The right foot might wiggle a bit further forward and you could slightly lean into this lunge. If your arms feel very short, you might grab a block here, placing your hands onto a block. As you lean forward, please keep the front knee over the ankle joint, finding your lift in the spine. Next breath in, shifting the hips a little bit back and wiggling your front foot to the other side of the mat, bending the knee and placing the knee down. Now, I am aware that some of you will prefer to do this on their backs. It's a figure 4 if you come to the back with the right ankle to your left side. If you want to stay with me, you slide the back leg out long and you could choose to use the block under the other side of your buttocks. Rolling down onto the back, definitely an option. Right ankle to left side and hugging the figure 4 in. If you're here with me on the front, you might come to your fingertips, find a balance or a challenge rather in the hips. Take a deep breath. And from there, could you lower the hands to the floor, the forearms to the mat, or even the forehead with your arms extended forward. More important than the shape you are taking might be how you align yourself. You can be on the back in a very kind position for yourself, hugging in or even stepping the lower foot onto the block. Or you could choose to be here, feeling the balance in the pelvis with or without a prop, lengthening out through the back ankle joint and finding your rest here. There might be a light activation in the front ankle to support itself as well as the knee. Leaving shoulders easy and finding a peaceful but slightly deeper breath to focus upon. As often, this posture triggers emotional outbursts in yoga. You might touch with these emotional sensations that could arise upon that idea of your healthy boundaries. So be mindful of how you're interacting with yourself in such stimulating shapes. Beginning to rise again as you might step upon your hands, even the fingers, and lift your heart. Then grounding the hands again, lifting up onto the knees and extending your right leg back. Creating some flow if you like. There could be movement here coming through this extended leg. Then placing the right knee down and stepping the left foot forward. The same here, you could use a block for the hands to rest on. You might wiggle the foot further forward. So when you lean into the hips, your knee remains over the ankle joint, allowing the length in the spine and having a few breaths here. Still, there's extension through the right side, so you're hopefully increasing more flow. Then slightly shifting the weight back and wiggling your left foot to the other side of the mat. Grounding the knee to the floor if you are practicing on your back, or if you need to do so on this side, left ankle to right side. Sliding the leg out behind you, aligning it, coming to the fingertips. Perhaps there's a block supporting you as you lift your heart, breathing in. And you might from there land hands down, or arms, or forehead. And just because you did it in one way on the other side, please explore here again and see what suits you in this shape. Allow shoulders to be easeful, the toes aligned directly with the hips so the ankle is straight, a flexion in the other ankle to support the joints of the front leg, and the shoulders finding a bit of ease. Observing yourself again. Healthy boundaries. Sometimes we need them for ourselves as well as from ourselves. Sometimes we want to pull ourselves back into the practice or whatever we are doing, and feeling distracted by inner emotional self-talk. A healthy boundary could work with that too. This time, I'd ask you to roll over onto the side of the hip. Walk the hands back and extend your legs out in front. As you lift up onto the fingertips, extending your spine. Now, I will bring a few things around me. I will have my strap here. If you do have an actual strap or something you can tie up, buckle up, this will be sufficient. If you don't, please have a block or a cushion by your side. You might like your blanket as a cushion for the head. So on your fingertips, flexing the feet, bending the knees, and on the outwards, walking out the sitting bones and gently surrendering forward. Taking a breath to lengthen the spine to the front. And then an outwards, as you could use your hands as a support or let them slide down the mat as you come to roll down onto your back. I will ask you to grab a strap if you have the one that I asked you about, one that you can actually close. It's always a little bit like a knitting or crochet pattern, isn't it, to get that happening? So if you don't, you might choose a legs up the wall pose instead, or perhaps resting your sacrum onto a block and bringing your legs up. Let's all begin whatever we choose to do here with the feet on the ground. Keep the buckle away from your head and place the strap behind the head. Then bend your knees and place the feet into the strap. Now mine could be just a tad bit longer. I will release as much as I have there. And please make sure that the strap is really behind the head and away from the neck. Once you've got this position, it's called a hammock. Your feet are holding your head. So the challenge here is, as weird as this shape looks, to leave your hips more or less grounded, at least at ease, but then trust the whole weight of the head into the strap. You might choose now to close your eyes. Work on that trust, letting your arms roll open, the palms face up, so even your shoulders are soft. They might not touch the floor, that's okay. Just let them hang in there. The head is really heavy in the strap. If you are with me in this hammock, you might experience lengthening sensations in the legs and hopefully a sensation of release and letting be around your neck, shoulders. As the hammock is an inversion, so it would be legs up the wall or resting in a supported version of it with a block. The only bonus of the hammock really is the neck release and that of the shoulders. If you are resting against the wall or on the block, you might engage into the feet and move them. There's no need to do anything in the hammock. This is actually taken out of restorative yoga practice, so a fully supported form. If you're resting on the wall, please bend the knees to the chest. Same if you're resting on a block. Rolling over to your side or stepping feet down to remove the block. If you're with me, bend your knees, release the feet. And I quite like to lower the head down while keeping the tension on the strap. Then remove the strap. Let's all lie on the back, stepping the feet down onto the floor. Finding the flow continuing. There might be sensations here in the legs as well as in the head. If there's any need for little movements here, please have them. If there isn't, you may slide your bolster underneath the knees, step your feet out wide and drop knees in. Or you might feel ready to extend your legs, let the toes roll outward, and perhaps sliding shoulder blades under. Arms just a tad bit away from the body, the palms of the hands facing upward. I now notice I would love to turn my head just side to side, keeping it heavy, finding some extension in the side. For you, it might have been a different movement. Finding yourself eventually in the stillness of Shavasana. If you enjoyed the mudra, however, you might come back into Brahmara mudra, where you could choose to touch the index finger to the bases of the thumb and the thumb to the inside of your middle finger, leaving your little and ring finger extended. Settling into your shape. Perhaps feeling back into the hands, the mudra if you're holding it. Please be okay with the mudra leaving you if you get more relaxed. The intention is there and sufficient. This mudra, Brahmara, means bee and also honey. It's a gesture traditionally recommended for allergies and the health of the immune system. Your breathing might be directed, awareness, energy, right to the upper chest, throat, neck and head, which is including the area of the thymus gland. The mudra might instill a sense of opening within the sinuses and air passages. It also can instill a sense of clarity within the mind, supporting us in living more consciously through lifestyle and diet and appropriate personal boundaries. As your breath might, with the help of the mudra, flow more freely, perhaps reminding yourself of the intention that you set around your personal boundaries, healthy boundaries. If you created an intention at the beginning, you might repeat it again silently to yourself 3 times. Once completed, you might let go of the mudra if you haven't yet. And you might choose to move fingers, hands, wrists, toes, feet, ankles. Perhaps finding other movements that feel nourishing, or even having a big stretch. You could then bend your knees. If you prefer to sit up over the front, please do so, but you could roll onto your side and then guide yourself towards a seated pose. Maybe bringing hands back to touch at heart center. Touching gently towards the area of the lungs, as you could close the eyes if you haven't kept them closed. Feeling your breath moving through your lungs. Tapping in your mind back to your healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries allow to let in, healthy boundaries also allow to put out. So perhaps from your heart, extending toward each other. Namaste.